Watch Awesome Video Game Memories on Amazon Prime for exclusive episodes and extra content. Link down below in the description. Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is StarTropics 2, Zoda's Revenge. Or is it Zoda's Revenge, StarTropics 2? So Zoda's Revenge, StarTropics 2 is the 1994 sequel to StarTropics. And back in 1994, most of us kids were already playing the Super Nintendo. So I unfortunately missed out on this game, which really sucks because I loved the first one so much. I mean, what the hell was I doing in 1994? Oh, I was playing Super Metroid actually. Yes, I still had my NES, I saw this game in stores, but being a poor 7th grader back in 1994, I had to decide whether I wanted to get StarTropics 2 or Super Metroid, and I kinda went with the latter. And for some reason, I just never got around to playing this game on an emulator or the Wii or Wii U Virtual Console, and it wasn't really until after I played the original StarTropics on the Nintendo Switch again, I wanted to play StarTropics 2 in full, so I did. So StarTropics 2 begins 1 year after the original StarTropics. Mike Jones is back in Seattle, and his uncle is also back in Seattle trying to decipher the hieroglyphics that you couldn't decipher back in the original game, which was on the rock in Chapter 6, which was actually an escape pod for the Argonians. So after Dr. Jones deciphers what's on the hieroglyphics, so the hieroglyphics say that you had to find Tetrads in order to help the Argonians find Mika's father. So Mike reads this book called the Oxford Book and then gets warped back in time. Holy shit, whoa! So rather than the tropical setting of the first game, Mike has to go through different time periods, and it doesn't really relate much with the StarTropics theme until the end. So one thing about this game right off the bat is, yes, you can actually move in 8 directions, and the controls are definitely a lot smoother than the first game, but not by much. I still feel like there's a bit of a sluggishness to the controls, but you'll definitely get used to it, and it's much easier to actually get used to it in the heart of combat, and you can actually start jumping around and change your direction mid-jump, and adding jumps in this game definitely adds a lot more challenge, and you have to be really careful in timing your jumps, because a lot of the times you might either undershoot or overshoot a jump, making you fall down in a pit, which really sucks. And also, one of the big differences in this game too is, yes, you do get your normal RPG, top-down walk-around screen, but there's actually a lot more action scenes in this game where you actually go down into the dungeons and fight enemies. And there's actually a lot of times in these dungeons you fall down some kind of imaginary pit and then you have to crawl yourself all the way back up again. So the first time period you go back to is the Ice Age, where you do have to fight the evil monster Yum Yum, and you do get an axe to help you, so this is kind of your default weapon at first. But luckily Yum Yum is not too difficult. You beat him and you get the first Tetrad. Or depending on which version of the game you're playing, if you're playing on one of the virtual consoles, it's going to be called a puzzle piece, mostly because Nintendo lost the rights to Tetris many years ago, so they can't use Tetrads anymore. So the next time period you go to is Ancient Egypt, and you actually encounter Cleopatra, who wants a pizza. You have pizzas here in Ancient Egypt? Cool! And so once you find the pizza guy who is actually riding on a Koopa Troopa, now that is awesome! You actually have to go into the pyramid, but you can't exactly go into the pyramid yet until you get the shockwave. So in this game you actually get 2 types of weapons. You get your normal bladed weapons, and then you actually get the shockwave weapons. And the shockwave weapons are the ones you can fire much longer, and they actually do require a specific amount of life to get. And throughout the game you'll get more powerful shockwaves that can, fire halfway across the screen and all the way across the screen. So once you traverse through this really annoying maze, to get the first shockwave, you go down into the temple, and then you get the next Tetrad, and then you go on to the next time period. So in the next time period, you go back into London, and you have to help Sherlock Holmes solve a mystery. And this is actually where you go down into the sewers with all the giant rats, and then you actually encounter Zoda again! Zoda is back! And he's definitely a lot more difficult than he was in the first game, and you have to fight Zoda multiple times in this game. So once you help Sherlock Holmes solve the mystery, you get the Tetrad, and then after that you go to the Wild West. Yeehaw, Mock the Cowboy! So in the Wild West, you actually have to get some dynamite in order to find a cave, and then once you get down into the cave, you have to fight a whole bunch of ghost miners, and then you have to fight the big boss, the ghost miner. ghost boss dude. Yeah. So once you beat him, you get the next Tetrad and go into the next time period. So in the next time period, you're in Renaissance Italy, where you have to help Leonardo da Vinci, and he gives you a katana. Yes, a katana. You know, I think this should have been more feudal Japan, but, you know, Leonardo da Vinci giving you a katana is like Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles. Oh, I should have figured that out years ago. But then once you get the Tetrad from here, you go down into Transylvania. Ooh, the spooky house. Kind of reminds me of Maxie the Ghost from the first game. And then you have to fight another form of Zoda, which is pretty difficult to beat. But once you beat him, you get the next Tetrad. And then you go into medieval times to help King Arthur. And you are Sir Mike of the Round Table. And this is where I feel that the difficulty of the game definitely spikes up a bit, because this night boss on the conveyor belt is really fucking difficult. And I actually beat this guy by luck. I have no idea how I did it, because I kept dying to this motherfucker all the fucking time. So finally, once you get all the Tetrad pieces, you have to go back to Sea Island, where everybody is turned into a pig. But once you're in the village, you go back down into the first dungeon from the first game, ready once again to face the test of island courage. Back into the depths to test my island courage. I return much stronger now to fight the scourges. All the things I faced have made me bold and fearless. Now it's time for me to show them I can do this. Come and face me now, things are not the same. Now it is time to fight, this is not a game. Armed with my shockwave and sword, it is time now for me to face all the hordes. I am not afraid. As I travel from this book, I go back in time. Searching all around the world, I stop Zoda's crimes. Finding all the Tetrads scattered through the ages. I complete the chapters in my story's pages. Now, time to end this fight, going throughout time. The final battle starts, my life's on the line. Zoda and his forces are here. Time to show them that I have nothing to fear. Time to end this game. So what's really cool about this, yes, they play a remix of the dungeon theme from the first game, and the layout of the dungeon is pretty much exactly the same, although you do get 8 directional movement now, and then you have to fight the skeleton of the sea serpent, and then after you beat that thing, yeah, begins probably the hardest part of the game, is the massive boss gauntlet. So you have to fight every single boss from every single time period, but thank God you do not have to fight that fucking ghost knight. Ugh. So what really sucks about this part is if you lose once, you have to start all the way over again, but they do give you like 2 potions before you start over and full health. But yeah, this was a bit unforgiving, and I imagine if I played this back in the day, I probably would not have gotten past this part. And yes, the final battle with Zoda is definitely much harder than it was in the original game. But then once you beat him, you actually get all the Tetrads back, and then you free Mika's father, the king of the Argonians, and then they go back into their home in space. Thus ending StarTropics 2. It's a good game, but I don't think it's as memorable or as good as the first one. And one thing about this game that I really didn't like is, yes, you do get better movement and response time, but once you get hit by an enemy, you get hit repeatedly, you don't get any invincibility, and even the most normal of enemies can really kill you. And this really makes it a problem when you fight the bosses, because the bosses can just drain your health like that. But the good thing about this game is they actually give you a lot more potions, which really helps. And they also give you better default weapons. I mean, even if you run out of hearts to use the shockwaves, you do get the katana, which is really good, which actually does go a pretty good length across the screen. I would say probably the majority of StarTropics 2 is a lot easier than StarTropics 1, but by the time you reach the final boss gauntlet, that's when it gets really difficult. And honestly, I don't like the story as much in this game, because I do prefer, you know, the tropical island setting with the alien spaceship, rather than going back in time and stuff like that. Yeah, and honestly, I think this game would have fared way better on the Super Nintendo. They probably could have tightened the controls better, made the graphics better, and most of us kids were playing on the Super Nintendo anyways. It probably would have made more sense to release it on the Super Nintendo, and sadly, it's been over 20 years and we have not gotten any new StarTropics games ever since. And it's kind of weird, both this game and the first one were never released in Japan, even though they were developed by Nintendo Japan. But nevertheless, at the time of this video recording, me and many other fans are still wishing for more StarTropics games. So you can get StarTropics on the Nintendo Virtual Consoles and hopefully on Nintendo Switch Online in the future. Or if you're watching this video in the future, it's probably already available. Alright guys, so that ends this episode of awesome video game memories about StarTropics 2. It's a good game, but not as good as the first one, but I do recommend you play it. Hey, do you love Dragon Ball? Do you like video games? Do you like Dragon Ball video games? Play the Dragon, the History of Dragon Ball Video Games. Volume 1 is a comprehensive guide based on all of the Dragon Ball video games from 1986 to 1997, which is everything from Dragon Power to Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. Well, make sure to pick up your copy today by clicking on the link in the description below. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, especially subscribe, and make sure to click on that notification bell so you know when we release new videos, cause YouTube won't tell you. And if you want to see me stream games, you can follow me on twitch.tv/BattleGeekPlus or mixer.com/BattleGeekPlus. And if you have a Twitch Prime subscription, you can subscribe to BattleGeek Plus on Twitch for awesome perks like emotes and subscriber badges. Also, make sure to support BattleGeek Plus at Patreon at patreon.com/Ryan Molina, because every dollar helps me bring you a better show. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at @RyanMolina and at BattleGeek Plus. And make sure to check out the BattleGeek Plus website for BattleGeek Plus merchandise, books, and a lot more.